Good morning, HWC kids. This week in Kids Connect, we're continuing to talk about Moses and the Israelites. After the Israelites escaped from Egypt and Pharaoh's rule, they weren't slaves to the Egyptians anymore, but they weren't completely out of harm's way, were they? Now they were wandering through the desert, hungry and tired, and eventually they had the Egyptians following them to bring them back to captivity. But if you remember, something cool happened. God protected them in a couple of special ways. Let's read a little bit about it together, okay? Moses and God's people escaped out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They didn't know the way, but God knew the way, and he would show them. I will bring you to a new home, a special land, God promised them. I will look after you. I am with you. God sent a big cloud for them to follow, a pillar of smoke stretching up to the sky. It moved in front of them as they walked and shaded them from the blazing heat of the day. And when it was time to rest, it stopped. All through the cold desert nights, it kept them warm, glowing like fire. God led his people through the desert to the edge of a great sea. They were just wondering how to cross it when suddenly they heard a terrible thundering and pounding. It sounded almost like horses' hooves. They shaded their eyes to look back and screamed. It was! Pharaoh and his army were coming to get them. Pharaoh had changed his mind again. "Get my slaves back," he screeched, and charged out into the desert after them with 600 of his fastest horsemen and every single chariot in Egypt. What were God's people going to do? In front of them was a big sea. It was so big there was no way around it, but there was no way through it. It was too deep. They didn't have any boats, so they couldn't sail across, and they couldn't swim across because it was too far and they would drown. But they couldn't turn back because Pharaoh was chasing them. They could see the flashing swords now glinting in the baking sun and the dust clouds and chariot after scary chariot surging towards them. So they did the only thing there was left to do, panic. "We're going to die," they shrieked. "Don't be afraid," Moses said. "But there's nothing we can do," they screamed. "God knows you can't do anything," Moses said. "God will do it for you. Trust him and watch." "But there's no way out," they cried. "God will make a way," Moses said. Another minute and it would have been over. But then the strangest thing happened. God made the pillar of smoke move. It moved behind his people and hid them from the Egyptians. Then God sent a strong east wind to blow all night long. It blew on the water of the big sea. It blew it to the left and it blew it to the right until it blew it into two towering walls of water. And there, right through the middle of the sea, a muddy pathway opened up, and God's people walked across on dry land. God made a way when they couldn't see a way, didn't he? He led them to safety. So think of this paper towel like us, and this empty glass that it fits into like God's protection around us. And the water in this bowl, it's all the bad, scary, and harmful things that happen around us. What happens when we don't have God's protection around us? Right? We're consumed by the bad things. What if the Israelites had tried to cross the Red Sea on their own? They would have drowned, wouldn't they? But if we rest in God and rely on him, he protects us. And the bad things can't get to us. Did you see that? It went into the water, but it came out dry. If we rest in God and rely on him, he protects us from the bad things and keeps us safe. It doesn't mean that only good things will happen to us, but it does mean that he will be with us, leading us to safety, just like he did for the Israelites. So today, rest in God and trust him, because he surrounds you with love and protection no matter what you are facing. Have a great day.